So this woman just got kidnapped, and she's been locked in this prison for months, and it doesn't look like she's gonna get out. So her name's Kayla, and Kayla cleans houses, and sometimes she cleans houses for this guy, Todd. And one day, Todd offers Kayla a different gig, clearing brush off some of the land he owns. And Kayla's like, sure, I'll do it. And then she gets her boyfriend to help, this guy, Charles. So Todd takes Kayla and Charles out to his property so they can get started. Once they're there, they see it's like lots and lots of land, and there's a 2-story garage on it. So they go into the garage to get some hedge clippers to get started. And when they all come out, Todd tells them to wait here. And then he leaves for a few minutes, and then when he comes back, he inexplicably has a pew-pew. And then he just suddenly shoots Charles right there, unalives him. Then Todd grabs Kayla and he throws her into one of those metal shipping containers, and it's really dark in there. And he handcuffs her and he chains her up so she can't get away. And she's so chained up she can barely move. And from then on, Todd shows up every day to the shipping container from about 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And then he lets her out and he takes her up to the little 2-story garage. And then he feeds her and he gives her a little water so she can clean herself. And then he SAs her, and then he takes her back to the shipping container and he locks her up. Then he comes back around 5 o'clock every day and he does the same thing. And if Kayla ever refuses to go along with all this, he says he'll unalive her, just like he did Charles. In fact, Todd brags to her that he had unalived about 4 people years before. He says he walked into a motorcycle shop and just pew-pewed everyone in there and ran away and never got caught. And he also brags to her that he had unalived a husband and wife before and that they're buried right there on his property. So Kayla hears this and she knows she has every reason to be scared. But what's really creepy is how infatuated Todd is with her. Like he tells her that Stockholm Syndrome will eventually set in and that she'll eventually love him. Yikes. Now meanwhile, in the outside world, Kayla's friends are looking for her. She hasn't been answering calls or responding to texts, so they go to her apartment to check on her, and they find that she hasn't even been home to feed her dog. And the poor dog had been without food or water for days. Don't worry, they end up feeding the dog. But that's when they realize something is seriously wrong. And suddenly, everyone's out looking for Kayla and Charles. But then, strangely, a post shows up on Charles's Facebook page, as if Charles himself had posted it. In fact, a bunch of posts show up. Posts saying things like he and Kayla are fine, that they're expecting a baby, that they had just gotten married and bought a house together. And all Charles's friends see this and they're like, what the f***? Because these posts do not sound like Charles. Plus, Charles has a Facebook account, but he never uses it. And what, suddenly he's active? So people know this isn't Charles posting all this. But what they don't know is that it's actually Todd, who had gotten Charles's phone and was posting on his Facebook page pretending to be him. So Kayla's friends and family and Charles's friends and family, they're all reporting this to the police. Because at this point, they've been missing for almost 2 months. And eventually, police get a warrant to check Kayla's Facebook page. And they check her DMs and they see messages between her and Todd talking about him hiring her to clean brush off his property. They also find that Kayla and Charles's cell phones had last pinged on Todd's property. So police get a warrant to search Todd's land, and they get there and they don't really find anything. But then, when they're looking around the area near the old shipping container, they suddenly hear a banging noise. And the banging is Kayla on the inside, beating on the walls of the container, hoping that she'll make enough noise that someone hears her. So police immediately get a saw and they cut the locks off the container. And finally, after being locked in there for 64 days, Kayla is finally set free. And of course, she tells police everything. How Todd kidnapped her, how he unalived Charles. She tells him about the previous murders he committed that he never got caught for, and that some of the bodies are buried right there on Todd's property. And then boom, they arrest Todd. And here's his mugshot. So Todd takes a plea deal to get out of the death penalty, and he gets sentenced to 7 consecutive life sentences. And all this happened in South Carolina, so shout out to South Carolina.